Hi there, greetings and salutations, and I think we are officially into, on this episode 215, by the way, Derek. Where is area code 215? I think 205 is Alabama, right? Is 215 Alabama?
I don't
205 is Alabama. So
215 area code. 206
so
is Seattle.
Hold on, let's just call it right now, Derek. I'm going to give you a condo in area code 215. Do you think it's going to be a place that would be cool to live?
People dump on this place, but I always thought it was kind of cool because it has a lot of history. But I think most people would be like, eh.
Philadelphia?
Yeah. How'd you know that right away?
I got to thinking about it.
Am I right, though? Like, people kind of dump on Philly, but I've always thought it was unique in the amount of history that's there.
Here's the thing. The weather's terrible.
Yeah.
And
it's not as cool as New York or Boston.
It's a grimy city, but I like the grit of it. There's an element of,
grimy's a good word, but almost like in a
they have great food there, right? We know that.
Grimy, like
Hoagies
in
and hops, right?
You appreciate it type way.
This is the official Hoagies and Hops show.
It is.
If we're area code 215, Philly, Hoagies and Hops.
How about that?
Let's go, right?
And a big weekend for Christina. She had all of her Penn State friends come in. I know not the result that they wanted, but I thought they played pretty well.
They did.
Against Oregon, and it was like a Nittany Lion takeover on the southwestern edge of Midtown over the weekend.
It's not Midtown. Okay, so this is Query and Schultz, by the way, on the ISC Sports Network, proudly presented by Bailey & Wood, your mortgage lending experts. BAWFG.com, right?
Yes, sir. 855-350-HOME.
The very best Mike Wood and his group at Bailey & Wood. We are happy to always be partnered with them. Chateau Kitchens, Hoagies and Hops, among others. IU Indy that we'll get to later in the program. But, Derek, we'll begin with this. Is it too early? I might have asked this last week. Are we into happy holiday season yet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because your dad is...
Oh, God. Yeah. My dad tells people, hope Santa Claus was good to you basically until race weekend every year. So he expands that a little bit more.
So when does he start with the happy holidays?
Yeah, happy holidays is Thanksgiving week, basically. And I think some people start doing that around Thanksgiving.
This year,
so that's normal.
Thanksgiving was so late this year that didn't it feel like we immediately turned it into
2 weeks
Christmas
from right
season?
now. I mean, we're taping this right now, early Tuesday is Christmas Eve, which seems crazy to me. Like we're usually done with Christmas shopping and all that. We're like not even halfway done right now. Yeah, so we're feeling it. But yeah, I think it's definitely happy holiday season right now.
Well, there's a lot to talk about in terms of like a festive feel, right? Because you've got, unless you're talking about the Pacers. But everything else, the Colts have an opportunity. The gift is underneath the tree for them in Denver to try to open up a lane for the playoffs. You have, obviously, with Indiana and Notre Dame in college football, we should probably lead with that, Derek, because this is a big one. It's not going to be this week. It's a week from Friday. But the college football playoff, didn't you know that when it came down to it, they would know the storylines. They know what they're doing, right? It's not really why it worked that way, but don't we always do this with the NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
Look at the committee. Look how sneaky they are pitting together Kelvin Sampson and India, that kind of thing. Here it is, the two schools that will lead off the college football playoff, and it begins with two schools from the state of Indiana. And whoever would have guessed that the Fightin' Hoosiers would be one of them?
Yeah, and two teams that really have no history against each other, which is crazy to think. I mean, Indiana and Notre Dame have played once since 1958. Isn't that wild?
Right.
Like, Notre Dame has played South Florida more times
right.
in that span. I mean, it's insane to me. I actually remember that game in 91. I would have been my son's age, James. And we had my cousins over, and my uncle went to Notre Dame, and we grew up kind of in a Notre Dame family, Notre Dame rooting family. And I remember watching that game. And that 91 team had
good players.
Vaughn Dunbar and Thomas Lewis and Trent Green. I mean, they had some guys that were NFL caliber players. That was kind of smack dab in the middle of that successful Mallory run. Right. Not the peak of it, because that would have been like 88, right? 87, 88, but they were still very much in that area. And it's interesting for me, Jake, because this is something that I don't like broadcast to the masses because I know how much it upsets people. But I very much grew up the reversible jacket fan that people talk about. I mean, my folks were born and raised in South Bend. My sisters went to St. Mary's. I have lots of uncles and cousins that attended Notre Dame. I grew up a Notre Dame football, and my parents went to IU, and IU basketball fan. those things never intersected for me.
No,
I know it's horrible, right? And I'm embarrassed of it, but it's true. I mean, Rakestraw remembers when I was still, 20 whatever years ago, I was still very much involved in those two areas. So to see it kind of come together like this, it's a little bit surreal. And I'm just fascinated. The fact that it's the first game and it's a standalone game on a Friday night, the entire country is going to be watching it.
I just thought of something. I need you to answer this for me, okay?
Okay. You've got a look on your face like you've got a gotcha or something for me.
Not a gotcha.
Okay.
For anybody.
I'm very worried about what you're about to say.
Let's just say hypothetically that Indiana goes to Notre Dame and wins. They then go to Georgia, play in the Sugar Bowl. Not to Georgia, but they go to the Sugar Bowl.
Yep.
They play Georgia, and let's say that Georgia beats them.
Okay.
But Indiana beat Notre Dame. That 1991 season, they just put it up there. That was the last year, I can tell you, it was against Baylor in the Copper Bowl, later known as the Insight.com Bowl.
Yeah.
That was Indiana's last bowl win.
Yeah.
If Indiana goes to Notre Dame and
ask.
wins, but then loses to Georgia.
Does the bowl streak count? Yes, because it's a postseason game, I would say.
It's not a bowl game, though.
It's a postseason game.
I understand, but it's weird. It's a weird caveat.
It is weird.
It
It's a weird caveat, and I think it would make for a fun trivia question because technically it's not attached to a bowl, whereas all these other games are attached to the Peach Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, whatever else.
Which leads to this, okay? The game itself in South Bend, I think there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding of this. And as much as I enjoy the college football playoff thing, and look, you and I talked about this, Derek, years ago. We kept saying, if they ever expand the college football playoff to more than 4 teams, no matter what number you have in, there's going to be an argument about who was the one left out,
of course.
right?
Yeah.
Which happened.
Yeah.
But having said that, the one thing where I think they maybe fell short a little bit or didn't explain thoroughly enough is I think there are people that thought that all of the college football playoff games were going to be neutral games.
Yeah.
And so when Notre Dame, for example, and Notre Dame could not have a bye because of the agreement they had by not being full-fledged into a conference. So Notre Dame is at the peak really of what Notre Dame can do, which is to play and host in round 1. These are a true road game for the lower-seeded team, and it is designed to be that way. So Indiana fans that are like, this is an outrage. They only gave Indiana 3,500 tickets. Yes, it's just like when the Colts go to Pittsburgh in the playoffs.
Yep.
It's the same thing,
Yep.
right? You have an advantage of hosting a playoff game if you were that close to being in the bye. And Notre Dame got that advantage, and so they have that advantage over Indiana. And if you want to go, you can get tickets, but it's going to cost you a lot.
I still think, and I was having this argument on Twitter the other night, I still think, like, you're not going to see, like, a IU takeover. But there was a Notre Dame media guy that was like, well, because of the allotment, it's going to be all Irish green. And I'm like, there is absolutely going to be an IU presence there. Like, I don't think it's going to be 2017 Georgia, or if you go way back, Nebraska played at Notre Dame in 2000, back when Nebraska was Nebraska, and it was like 60-40 Nebraska fans. They were number 1 in the country, I think. I don't think you're going to see that, but because of the proximity, Chicagoland, you know how many IU alums are in Chicago? And this is the biggest game, even bigger than the Rose Bowl. This is the biggest game in IU's program history because it's Notre Dame, too.
That's correct.
Because it's Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been the gold standard, certainly in the state, and one of the gold standards of college football historically. I understand they haven't won a championship in 35 years or whatever. It's the biggest game in IU history. So I do think that IU fans are going to pay the premium to go. And I think Notre Dame fans who are thinking, they're going to take care of business. We got Georgia next week. New Orleans is a fun party city. Let's sell $2,500 a pop for these and pay for our trip to New Orleans. I think they're going to be more inclined to do that.
That's possible.
I think Notre Dame fans who aren't in Indiana, I don't think care about this game at all. If you're from New Jersey and you went to Notre Dame, IU has no relevance to you at all. So I think those are the type of people that are going to sell.
But it's still a playoff game at home.
Yeah, and you're right, and there's something to that, and it's the first one
ever.
It's the first one. So Jake, look, I'm not saying again. I don't think 40,000 Notre Dame fans are going to sell. Okay, but I also don't think 40 Notre Dame fans are going to sell. There's going to be more than that. There's going to be an IU presence at this game.
So we'll see real quick if we can do this off the top of our head, and I think we probably can. Okay, the teams the 12 teams that are in. Okay, the 4 byes: Oregon, Arizona State, right?
Yep. Georgia, Boise,
and Boise. Okay, then you've got Texas, Clemson, SMU, Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame. Who am I missing?
Ohio State, Tennessee.
Ohio State, Tennessee. Okay, we're gonna get in our DeLorean. We're gonna go 88 miles an hour, 1.21 gigawatts. We're gonna go back to 1990. You're standing in 1991. You're standing in 1991 and you say, I can see into the future in 2024 and there's going to be a 12-team college football playoff, and here are the 12 teams. What are the 4 teams in that grouping? Or, well, we'll say 3. Give me the 3 teams in that grouping that when that person says it, you'd go, there's no way that this person's legit because there's no way that those 3 schools are going to be playing.
You know what? I'll give you one that popped into my head immediately. If we're talking 1991, Oregon. Oregon wasn't a thing until 25 years ago.
Okay.
Right?
That's fair.
What was Oregon's history?
Well, 30 years ago, yeah, mid-90s.
I mean, yeah. Oregon's history was, I remember like Achilles Smith and being like, "Hey, there's this quarterback that's out in Oregon."
Dan Fouts and Ahmad Rashad.
Like, okay,
okay.
But how many Rose Bowls did Oregon play in before?
You're right.
The 90s. So Oregon, I would put there. Boise. I mean,
Boise
wasn't a thing until the 2000s, right? SMU still would have been they would have been long donezo, but 6 or 7 years out of that peak of relevance. So let me think if there's anybody else that I would be surprised by.
There are 2 that.
Tennessee, Notre Dame, you wouldn't put there.
You're missing a big
Ohio
one.
State, you wouldn't put there. Penn State, you wouldn't put there because Penn State was really good then.
You're missing a big one here, Derek.
I'm missing a big one. Arizona State?
Okay, that's one.
Okay.
Arizona State was okay back then, right?
Jake Plummer, that was 95?
Yeah, that was more. That was
95?
Arizona State was a decent, an occasional. They were the
Yeah.
Iowa of
this
the
is
Pac-10.
more your wheelhouse than mine, but
Indiana.
Oh no, Bill Mowry. They were going to Copper Bowls and Blue Bonnet Bowls and Pullman Weed Eater, Liberty Bowls, and
they were going. They were going to.
Yeah, no, Indiana was good.
They were going
back
to bowl
then.
games named after colonial farmers.
Indiana
Blue
was
bonnets
good back
and
then.
weed eaters. Great. Okay.
Indiana was good. I do think that. I think people nationally, because Indiana is crashing the party, and look, people are going to say, "Well, it's 2 guys in Indiana, it's 2 IU alums." So
5 weeks ago, would you have even thought Arizona State?
No, that's true.
Arizona State in the Big 12 title game was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, where these guys come from?"
And by the way, as great of a story it is, there's no rationale or reasoning whatsoever for them to get a bye. They gotta do something about the buys.
Why?
There's no reason for it. These other leagues are just less than. So there's no reason for Boise State to have a bye. It's just sorry. Your ticket, if you win the conference championship, your ticket should be automatic inclusion. That's all you should be guaranteed. I think they really need to rethink the buys.
So who would you give the 4
buys?
Because
I don't like the matchups. Well, I mean, would you consider doing a double bye for the top 2, or would you tweak it like that?
So what 4 buys would you hand out? The Derek Schultz overnight fantasy camp mock tournament selection committee. If they said to you
2, I would do if it was 4 buys, I would do the 2 highest conference champions and then the 2 highest at large.
Okay,
that's how I do it.
So your 4 buys this year.
So my 4 buys would be Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, and Texas.
But what makes you say that Georgia is the highest ranked conference champion? They have 3 losses.
They're number 2. They were number 2 in the overall rankings. I'm just going on what the college. I don't think Penn State's the 4th best team in the country, but according to the college football rankings, they were.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I would do it. But I was going to say, I think nationally people are really overlooking. This is very much a strength versus strength matchup here. Indiana's defense and offense, they're a very well-rounded team, just like Notre Dame's, even though I think Notre Dame's offense statistically doesn't match how good they actually are. I think Notre Dame's offense is actually less than what the stats say because they've scored 500 points
Notre Dame
against
can
Purdue
run
and
the football.
Army and all of that.
Right.
But Notre Dame can run and Indiana can stop it. So I'll be interested to see what they do. And also, I would argue Curtis Rourke is the best quarterback that they're going to see all year. Notre Dame hasn't faced a murderer's row of quarterbacks.
Understood, but Derek, Curtis Rourke against Ohio, you could
yeah.
Curtis Rourke also, Notre Dame is as good defensively as anybody that he's seen, and he struggled against Ohio State.
I would agree, yeah. But I don't think pound for pound Notre Dame is as good as Ohio State. Now, Ohio State falls short because of, I think, the coaching element of it. Ryan Day drives a Ferrari like it's a Mitsubishi Eclipse.
So, you know what? Somebody sent me a text that is the greatest. Like, I read it and thought to myself, that is so brilliant that I should take total credit for it. But I'm not going to. Somebody sent it to me on text. I just simply got a text after the Michigan-Ohio State game that said, Ryan Day is the Michael Jordan of James Franklin's.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
That's a good way. That's a good way to put it, yeah. James Franklin, I saw like 1 in 15 against AP top 5 teams, and then I thought to myself, who's the one? You know what I mean? Because you think of all the losses, and it's hard. It's hard for me. Maybe when they beat Ohio State in the regular season in 2016, when they went to the Big Ten championship game, maybe that would have been an urban Ohio State team.
Side note here: if Ohio State loses to Tennessee, which I don't think they will, but if Ohio State loses to Tennessee, is he gone?
Yeah, you got to fire him. I know people look at the record and be like, "You're crazy. What are you talking about?" Anybody would sign up for that. You can't go every single year. The 2 objectives for Ohio State every year: 2, win the national championship, beat Michigan. You can't go 0 for. He'll have gone 0 for 8 in the last 4 years with that. I mean, you wonder, they were this close to beating Georgia in whatever year that was, 20, not 20, 22, and they would have run over TCU, I think.
Right.
So they were that close to. That was the de facto national championship game, and but that's what you get. I mean, you can't lose to Michigan 4 years in a row. Just can't do it. That's a game that you got to have.
It is.
Yeah.
It is tough,
It's
especially when Michigan this year was down, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I love it. As much as people wanted to make the story, well, Alabama got left out. The story for me, Jake, is that SMU is in this playoff. Indiana's in this playoff. Boise State is in this playoff.
Well, Arizona
this
State,
is what we wanted, right?
Derek,
this is what we wanted. Everybody has a chance.
This is the same. What happened to Alabama is the same as the NCAA tournament. And I realize Alabama, it's not – if you were going to defend Alabama, you would say this. It's not Alabama's fault that Wisconsin had a down year.
Yeah, that's fair.
They did go to Wisconsin in a home and home. But Alabama had 3 conference losses, and when Alabama was in the games, you are not responsible for the way that your conference teams have up or down years. You got to play your conference schedule. What you schedule outside of your conference is your responsibility. And when you're scheduling Mercer and, again, Wisconsin, sure. And it's disappointing for them that Wisconsin was not a better win for them. But outside of that, they didn't take advantage of being able to bolster their schedule by going out and playing a top-level schedule. And then losing 3 games within the conference, hey.
And the unforgivable loss for Alabama for me was getting run off the field by Oklahoma.
Correct.
Like if we're really doing a peer-to-peer, I understand Oklahoma is one of the 5 or 6 best college football programs in the country, right? Historically speaking. They're Minnesota this year.
Right.
And they got run off the field by Minnesota. Like that was the unforgivable
the end of the year,
loss.
Too.
That was the unforgivable loss for me. And if they would have lost on a missed extra point in Norman, okay, I would have given them a little bit more benefit of the doubt.
The thing that's frustrating about Alabama, if you're an Alabama fan, and I will grant them this, and everybody knows it, Alabama's the one team that the reason it's a talking point that they didn't get in is because everybody knew you don't want them in.
Yeah. Well, that too, yeah.
You know
because
what I mean?
if you get good Milroe, then they can make a whole run. But if you don't, then they're going to lose by 3 touchdowns to Oklahoma again. But I think they got it right. And I think what they needed to do, Jake, and I could take or leave SMU. I don't know if SMU is even that good. But if you were to leave SMU out, that would give incentive to the next ACC or whatever champion to be like, well, I'm not playing in the conference championship game. Make me. I would just not play, right?
Okay,
because if you're going to kick me out for losing that game, then why would I play in it?
Here's another prediction for you. We are within 5 years of these conference championship games becoming irrelevant.
Yeah, they're already irrelevant.
They are.
None of these games, man, outside of punching Clemson's ticket, none of these games did anything.
Right.
They didn't change anything.
And the
Texas,
crowds.
Texas and Georgia just swapped, basically,
Derek,
right?
The crowds were.
Yeah. They were low.
And I get it. I totally understand it. If you're an Oregon fan and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I could spend my money to fly to Indianapolis and go to the Big Ten title game and watch Oregon play around with Penn State, or I can save my money for There are 2 games in the college football, basically semifinals and finals, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why would you?
And if you're a Clemson fan, you've kind of been stuck in this like disappointing 9-3 muck.
Right.
And so I'm sure you're happy that they made the playoff, but part of you is kind of like the season's been kind of meh, right?
I mean, it was a great finish for sure. But
the season itself has been kind of meh, right?
Totally, yeah. And there were 35,000 people at that game, and 32,500 of them were Clemson fans.
Of course, yeah. So overall, I think college football should celebrate the parity and everything. This has been a great season. This has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see how this bracket plays out. Instead, we're complaining about what it isn't instead of celebrating what it is.
Did you find this odd? I did. I like Dabo Swinney. I know he grates on people. But after Clemson won the SEC title game, Dabo Swinney said it was because it was all in God's plan, and that was God's plan for them, was to win that game. And then I got to thinking, why would God do that to the Methodists?
Yeah, just smite them like that. Yeah.
I would think that Southern Methodist would have had, they have a hotline also, right?
Yeah. And I don't know, I haven't looked around the world lately. Does God have bigger fish to fry than the ACC championship game, you think?
Probably. But also, their quarterback also said that it was the plan of Jesus.
Yeah, look, I don't want to mock anybody's faith. We all have our personal beliefs and all of that, and they are motivators, and that's wonderful. I think it's wonderful if you have that belief and you have peace in yourself, whatever, and you believe that there is this other force that drives you. But when it comes to sports, I've always felt like the whole the whole thing correct. Is a little bit silly. One other college football note, just to kind of squeeze in: Purdue hired Barry Odom, and I think it makes a lot of sense, right?
Clearly Mike Babinski, this was a guy that, if you go back and you look at like the Brom hire, that was their guy, right?
Yeah.
The Ryan Walters hire, if you think about it, there was more cloud is the wrong word, hesitation, delay. It didn't look like it was the guy that that was who they went after, right? I think there was a lot more discussion with that. This looks like a hire that this was their guy from the get-go. There was not, in talking to people on the Vegas side of things, they knew that Odom was likely going to take a job somewhere. West Virginia was the one that they were thinking. Purdue kind of came out of nowhere from their standpoint, meaning I think this was something that had been, they zeroed in and targeted in and said, this is our guy, we're going to go get him. He is a defensive-minded coach in a league whose top teams are offensive-minded teams. Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana for this year. Those are teams that score a lot of points. The thing I like, Derek, he is a guy that has been a head coach at numerous places, and he is not a guy that, to your point that I know you were big on, was not going out and getting a coordinator who had to learn head coaching, CEO-level stuff. How much of his staff does he bring with him? That's going to be a question as well. But by all account, I think it looks like a pretty good hire.
Yeah, it's a hire that makes sense. There's no way of really knowing, right? Sometimes the hotshot coordinator works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the retread head coach works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I think Purdue needed somebody that was going to bring a level of stability that even you didn't really have. The Brom era too. I mean, those teams were sloppy, and you kind of never knew what you're going to get. Like, don't get me wrong, it was it was a successful era, but Purdue's been pretty loosey-goosey football-wise for a while now, and I think at the very least Odom is going to bring a level of I don't even know what the word is, stability, continuity, I guess, when it comes to all that. So we'll see how it goes. And I think deep down he knows, because Missouri, it didn't work out for him at the end of the day. This might be his last Power 4 head coaching chance to get in like this. So they've got some guys in the portal that they're going to have to address, but that whole team needs a significant makeover. No question about that.
Everybody's got guys in the portal they got to address.
Hero of the Week and Hoagie of the Week, brought to you by our friends at Hoagies and Hops. Look at this beautiful thing. Look at this. Now that is a beautiful, beautiful sando. This is the Market Street. So you got a little ham.
By the way,
you just mentioned cheese.
You mentioned Loosey Goosey. This is Loosey Juicy.
Yeah, Juicy Lucy, right?
Loose Juicy.
Loose Juicy. That's what it is. Yeah. Ham, Munster, chopped Turk, house-made slaw, house-made Thousand Island. Delicioso.
Perfection every time.
One problem with this sandwich is that this is a sandwich that kind of gets everywhere.
Not really. I don't have any problem.
On the studio. Well, there's slaw and globs of Thousand Island, and it's really good. But It's messy. And then we've got Loose Juicy.
Careful when you open it.
Double dried, hopped IPA. What the hell's wrong with you?
Mine sprayed a little bit. It's great.
I mean,
Chili Water makes fabulous beers, by the way.
Yeah, it's just like I know what you're thinking, like a double IPA. Like if you're
no, that's very smooth.
I'm not anti IPA, but I'm not somebody that usually goes and orders an IPA when I'm at a bar. And if I would hear double IPA, that's something that I would never order, right? But you have this, and this is coming from a non-IPA drinker. I think it's very smooth and delicious and really.
It does have a little
really
bit of
tasty.
hop to it, but it's not an overpowering hop, right?
I like hops. IPAs just kind of usually mess with me, but not this Loose Juicy. This is really, really good.
Best way to say it, a lot of IPAs feel kind of thick, like wintertime. Yeah. This is a much smoother and kind of lighter version of it.
Hero of the Week, I gave it to the College Football Playoff Committee because I think they got it right. I mean, people were doing crazy stuff. After the conference championship game, I saw one that had South Carolina 10th and Indiana out and Penn State falling to 9.
You're
and
not
I'm
going with Clemson's freshman kicker?
I'm like, what? Oh, yeah, he drilled that too. He drilled it, no doubt.
I'll tell you the underrated play of that.
He's the best kicker in the country, right?
Well,
recruiting-wise?
Coming out of high school, he had kicked more field goals than anybody in the history of high school football, but he was not Clemson's regular kicker this year.
But I didn't know that.
For those who don't know, and it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, I'm a Clemson fan, right? So that I will admit I was watching it, but this is the game of inches in football that's fascinating to me that you forget about. So Clemson and SMU are playing. SMU's down big. They score on their last 3 possessions. Derek doesn't believe in momentum, but it absolutely was on display in the ACC title game, right? So SMU scores with 16 seconds left in the game, and you're like, oh, gosh. Clemson has no chance in overtime of this game. SMU is just rolling, and Clemson's offense had become stagnant. So SMU scores, 16 seconds left in the game, and they got to kick off. Clemson puts in Adam Randall. This felt like Anthony Thompson in the 89 bucket game. They put Adam Randall, who had been a 5-star level wide receiver recruit. I think he's a junior, but had fallen in their depth chart. And they said, Adam, you're going to go in and you're going to return this kick. He'd never done it before.
Wow.
So he takes the kick, he returns it, and he gets, I think it was a 38-yard return, and he gets it out towards midfield. And they have, I think it was 9 seconds left. They run one quick out, completion, 14-yard gain, timeout, 2 seconds left, and they kick a 56-yard field goal to win it. The thing about the game of football that's fascinating, if Adam Randall goes 5 more yards,
they're out of time.
They're out of time.
Yeah.
They get time for one pass play, Hail Mary, and then they go to overtime and lose the game. It worked out. Everything I had to work out for them in that moment worked out perfectly, and that he drilled that 56-yarder.
And it's college kids. It's not an NFL team. Like, if an NFL team does that, you're like, okay, yeah, you see NFL teams do stuff like that all the time.
Right.
Even the Patriots, they put themselves in position. I know it was like a 66 or whatever yard field goal, but they put themselves in position. So, really good unbiased pick from Jake there. Clemson's kicker.
No, actually, here's my. I do have a hero of the week. It's not that.
Dabo Sweeney, actually, is Jake's hero of the week.
Here's my hero of the week. Okay.
Jay Edwards.
How did you know? Same county, Grant County. When I was a kid, I went to Taylor basketball camp. Loved it. Had a lot of fun there. And the Division III, actually NAIA players at Taylor, that were the counselors at the time. Excuse me. I thought they were that close to being, first team Division I All-Americans for all I knew. I'd not been back to the campus of Taylor University really until Friday night. Silent Night is, of course, a very famous thing that Taylor does. They've done it now since the mid-'90s. Greg Poley, friend of the show, was amongst the first class to do the Silent Night at Taylor. But what Silent Night is, which is well known, is this. What I knew was this, Derek. I knew going up to Taylor that it was a hard ticket to get, and I knew that I was going to go to a game between Taylor and Moody Bible Institute. I was worried about what mood they'd be in. And that at the start of the game, everybody's real quiet until Taylor scores their 10th point, in which case all of the students rush
Pandemonium.
the court. And then at the end of the game, they sing Silent Night. I thought, okay. Well, then I went to the game, and I noticed that the entire student body, every student that's there, the entire one side is nothing but students. And they're all dressed in costume in blocks. There was 15,
themed, right? Yeah,
15 girls dressed like Caitlin Clark, 15 guys dressed like Bam Bam from the Flintstones, 10 guys dressed like mimes, which I thought was brilliant because it's Silent Night. And it was explained to me that at Taylor, you live basically in the dorms or in student housing for all 4 years. And you dress with your floor as part to show that your community comes together for Silent Night, and you guys all work together as a group, and you can see the different communities that are in the crowd, which is the theme of Taylor University, because it's a university that's about community, but a university that's bonded within their faith and their belief in, obviously, as a Christian school, and the holiday season and the celebration of the season. And I saw people that were like, this is ridiculous. They're just trying to get on ESPN. They're interrupting a college basketball game with NAIA. And I'm like, look, it's NAIA players. Both teams, both coaches are well aware of what's going to happen. The other team is well aware of what's taking place. And it's one of the unique circumstances I realized where I was the one that was naive about it. And I went into it not really fully grasping and understanding that what I was seeing was a celebration of a group of people that believe in their community and the faith of their community and their school, and they use basketball as the platform to allow the students to take center stage to show and celebrate their common belief and faith in a season. Not the basketball season, but the holiday season. And to see that on display of the fun of it in the beginning, but then when they all sang the entire song of Silent Night for the last 2 minutes of the game was an incredibly moving experience. And it was one that it was an epiphany for me to understand that there are some circumstances where things are in fact beyond just the game or the sport itself. And so for me, the hero of the week is Taylor University for not only putting that on, but having the strength of their own convictions and their belief of being true to who they are and doing a great event as a result.
Yeah, special experience is what everybody says. I've never gotten to do it.
It was very cool.
To, but yeah, special experience, and it is neat. I would like to, maybe you and I could do it someday.
Yeah.
You and I buddy trip up there. My sister's not far from there. She's over in Fairmont.
Correct.
So.
I stopped at James Dean's grave on the way up.
Not far. James Dean, yep. 42nd.
That's all you got to say about that?
And Boulevard.
James Dean, okay.
Hoagiesandhops.com, catering as well, and then our friends at Chili Water Tap Room, also there in the adjoining room, 42nd and Boulevard. We'll come back to talk about the Colts facing their biggest game of the season. I'm going to give the Pacers 30 seconds of my time, which is 29 and a half more seconds than they probably deserve as well. So we'll talk about them, too. It's Corey and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Tonight.
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey & Wood presents Corey and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. He's Jake. I'm Derek. Hi. Happy holidays. Colts coming off the bye. Latest bye that you can have.
That shirt you're wearing, you look like one of the old, either a mime or an old prisoner. No.
That's all I know how to do is that.
But you don't.
Mimes creep me out because they're in the same family tree as clowns. Yeah.
No.
Mimes and clowns are in the same genus species group.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Who else is in there?
Actually, that would be probably it. I can't think of anybody else that would be in there.
Like Raggedy Ann type dolls?
No, because they're not. They're inanimate objects.
Okay. Do you go to the Yuletide?
What's that?
The Yuletide?
What's the Yuletide?
the symphony orchestra.
Is that the
Yuletide?
caramel thing?
No.
Where they have the market or whatever? Chris Kringle Mart?
No.
I haven't done that either.
No, the Yuletide is the musical symphony orchestra musical celebration at the Hilbert Circle Theater every year that takes place for Christmas. And
oh, awesome. No, I didn't know about that. Oh, that's what your dad takes you to every year,
Correct.
Right? He's listening to the show right now, so we should get that in post, and I'll pretend like I know what that is. 3, 2, 1. Yes, of course I know the Yuletide, a cherished family tradition for many Indianapolis families.
They have
decades.
the Raggedy Ann dolls that come out and dance.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to Yuletide then. Pass. I'm not going to Yuletide.
Why not?
You love probabilities, I know. You're a big percentage guy. Well, Colts' chances of making the playoffs, do you want to guess with a win over Denver what they are?
If they beat Denver, 82%.
No, not that high because they still got to,
57%.
Yeah, very close, 55. Chances if they lose.
8%.
Nailed it right on the head. 8%.
Seriously?
55% with a win, 8% with a loss. So if they lose, they've got about a 1 in 10 shot. They would essentially need to win out and have the Texans, Chargers, or Ravens lose out, which, let's face it, it's not going to happen. So it comes down to this. What I'm worried about, Jake, is that in this decade of the Colts falling short, they've faced this situation many times here. December, not winning in your game necessarily, because this is not a win in game. The Colts could turn around and lose to the Giants, and then beating Denver is not going to matter. But they have faced these December games where the season is hinged on a December game. Happened last year in Week 18 against the Texans, right? That was a win-in game. They lost. Happened in 21. They had 2 games. Raiders, I think, was one of them, and then at Jacksonville, where that debacle happened in Jacksonville. Lost both of those games. 2019, I remember they played in Houston. I think it was a Thursday night game. That might have been more like late November. Lost that game. Ended up losing division. And then in 15 and 16 under Chuck Pagano, they had home games against Houston. They lost to Brock Osweiler and Brandon Weeden in back-to-back years. Do you remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And ended up 8-8 and missing the playoffs. So I understand that the 2015 Colts don't have a lot to do with the 2024 Colts, but what worries me is that, the Colts have been in this position many times, and as much as I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, they always seem to find a way to lose this game.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate and Mr. Positive here. Let's say they lose to Denver. Let's say they beat Denver. They get in the playoffs. Are they beating Buffalo in the playoffs?
Probably not.
Are they beating Kansas City in the playoffs?
Probably not.
Are they beating Pittsburgh in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, they look like a different team, too. I know they beat them early this year, but probably not.
Are they beating Baltimore in the playoffs?
Probably not.
So if they get into playoffs...
I didn't say no. I just said probably not.
Are they beating those teams in successive order?
Probably not.
So if they lose and they miss the playoffs, they draft, 15th?
Yeah, something like that.
And they get a right guard out of Texas A&M? Cool. Or they make the playoffs and they draft 22nd, and they get a right guard out of Texas A&M? Cool.
Yeah. There's no difference.
Yeah.
I agree. You might as well make it. And
I don't see. I look at it as at least 15th. You got a chance to take a tight end if there's one there.
So you're like, okay, so that's not what I was. You were laying that argument like I would argue.
What I'm saying is, if they miss the playoffs, I don't think it's the end all be all, because I don't think it's the end of the world, because this year was always about just the development of Anthony Richardson. And sure, it'd be nice to get him the experience of playing in a playoff game, but that's kind of what this Denver game is, with all the stakes on it, right? And if I look at it and I go, this is the ceiling of how far the experience is going to get for them. The pressures, everything else, it's not going to be any more than it is this week. And then anything beyond this week, if they win, hurts them in their draft selection. I know that sounds crazy, but there is that element of thought to me that if they do not make the playoffs, it is not the end-all be-all, because this year was never about making the playoffs to begin with. So don't get greedy and push too hard in.
Oh, yeah, look, I don't think it's a disaster, but I think the difference between picking 16 and 22 is pretty negligible.
I mean, that's probably true.
I think it would be very beneficial for Anthony Richardson to have a real playoff game. And some of these players to go through a real playoff game. So I would disagree that's
But doesn't it feel like, Derek,
even if they lose,
win or lose, doesn't it feel like the Colts are in this literally lane of mediocrity that is, are they going to go 9-8 or 10-7? They're going to make the playoffs. It's going to be exciting for the last 3 weeks, and then they lose in the playoffs, rinse and repeat.
But I would
rather this way for like 6 years.
But honestly, the bar's gotten really low. Making the playoffs would be a good thing. They haven't done it since 20. They've done it twice in the last 10 seasons. So making the playoffs would be a good thing. That would automatically make 2024 their third best season of the last decade. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But it's true. So I do think making the playoffs. I agree with you that they're stuck in this mediocrity and this rut here. But 10-7, even if they got blown off the field by Baltimore or whoever else, I think that would be that'd be something positive that you could take forward. I just want something meaningful for the Colts to have, to say, hey, we did this. And for so often, every single year in this past 9-10 years, you've had nothing that you could point to say, hey, the Colts did that. Winning at Arrowhead on Sunday Night Football with a 7-9 team in Jacoby Brissett. I mean, I guess, if that's the highlight of the last 9 or 10 years, I mean, that's pretty sad. That's depressing, right?
Is there a banner for that?
2018 was fun. The 2020 season with Rivers, people never gave that the credit that it deserved. That was a good team.
It was.
And a fun team.
And I think they
really
thought
outside of that, it's been a lot of blah.
A lot of what?
It's been a lot of blah outside of that.
Okay.
Are you surprised at how Bo Nix has played?
No, because I think that he is.
I mean, he's 29 years old, right? So
oftentimes, you see the Brandon Weeden.
Yeah.
No, oftentimes though, Derek, a rookie quarterback, a lot of it depends on just simply right setting. And Sean Payton, that was kind of his guy, and there was a very clear understanding of that marriage going into it. And Denver is also good defensively, and they built around him. I am surprised, however, that Denver is this good.
Yeah, I'm just a little surprised he's played this well. He was a 6 quarterback take, and I thought they reached for him. And generally the quarterbacks you reach for, like Christian Ponder,
right,
end up being nobodies.
Sean Payton does fly coach.
Yeah, we know. We were on a plane with Sean Payton where we were first class.
That's correct.
There was blood on my pillow in first class. It was dried blood on it. But we flew to New Orleans for a Final Four, and Sean Payton was going to the back of the plane. That was like right during Bounty Gate. Do you remember? The Saints Bounty Gate scandal, and he was all like kind of incognito. I think he had like a Nike hat on, kind of drawn down, and I don't know. Right. He might do that normally, but yeah, flying into New Orleans. That was where was he even coming? It wasn't the combine. It would have been late March of that year.
You know what? If I'm not mistaken, Derek, didn't we have to go through Atlanta?
Yeah, I think we did.
So I think it was the Atlanta to New Orleans.
Because Jake tried to not to get off onto a tangent here. Jake tried to ditch me.
I didn't try.
Yes, you did.
No, they had an issue.
Tried to ditch me in Atlanta.
They had an issue with our
that was on the way back
on our connecting flight, and they only had room for one of us. And I said, okay, well.
Jake starts walking up the tarmac, and I had to be like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Derek,
we are a traveling party.
Derek, a la the Ellen DeGeneres show, leaned in to the microphone of the desk agent and said, and I quote, "We are a couple and we will not be split."
I don't remember using the word couple.
Yes, we are a couple and we will not be split.
I think I said we are together.
No.
And we will not be split.
We're a couple and we will not be split. And this is in the Deep South over the entire airport.
There was also one of those pop-up T-shirt shops. Remember? This was the same trip. And you were trying on that Louisville NCAA Final Four shirt. And you're like, hold on, how does this look? And I said, yeah, I think it looks pretty good. And the guy there was like,
remember?
Who are these guys? What is going? He didn't look like he was down for the cause.
That is true. I believe you said. You look good in that.
Yeah, maybe that. I don't know. It doesn't sound like something I would say to you, but yeah, there was. I mean, all these great memories. I mean, just two best friends on the road. I was going to write a book about it. Those plans keep getting delayed because I've got other things, like work's been very busy and all of that. But I might write like a memoir of our travels. San Antonio. Really, I could just do a book just on our Final Four travels. Atlanta.
The San Antonio trip was horrible.
Was wonderful.
No, it was awful.
Magical.
That was when I slept on the floor in the Howard Johnson. I had the imprint of the rug all over my cheek. And I woke up.
We had a single queen bed at the Hojo.
Yeah, that's why I slept on the floor.
Yeah.
And I woke up at 7:00 in the morning because you nudged me. I was asleep on the floor, and I felt this nudge, and it was your little foot with a sock on. And you bumped me, and I'm like, what are you doing? And it was 7 a.m, and you were ironing.
Your pants were wrinkly. I wanted us to be presentable. We were meeting Patrick Ewing for like a 9:30 interview, and I wanted to make sure that you were presentable. So, yeah, I was ironing your slacks.
Because, as we know, when it comes to Patrick Ewing, you want to make sure there's not a crease, even in an envelope or the pants, right?
Okay. Yeah, good one. 30 seconds on the Pacers. You ready?
Okay, go.
10-15. I saw a stat. They've played the easiest schedule in the league. They can't rebound. They can't defend. The offense is way worse than last year. I get that they have injuries, but they still have their stars and frontline players. They're not tough. They're not physical. I don't think they know what the answers are. I'm a big Rick Carlisle guy, but I don't think he has the answers either. And I'm wondering if we're venturing towards some major decisions needing to be made in the coming weeks.
5.
But we'll see. I mean, they're not worth your time right now.
Well, you had 3 seconds left.
It's sad. I mean, maybe some people thought there was going to be a natural regression to the mean because, let's face it, they caught some breaks last year in that run to the conference finals, right? I mean, they did. They caught some breaks. They took advantage of those breaks, but they caught some breaks. I didn't expect this, Jake. It's not a good basketball team right now.
What's weird? What's weird is I don't know why I have this frog.
No, you're fine. Okay, good.
What's weird is last year, what made the Pacers unique and what made them what they were was the rate in which they played offensively.
Yeah, the pace, right?
The pace and
tempo.
It's as if the tempo now the rest of the league is playing that, and the Pacers forgot how to do it.
Well, I think the rest of the league is being physical with them.
And I realize they are banged up. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But
I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, is easy to push around, and Miles Turner is easy to push. Miles Turner, and I've been a defender of Miles Turner. Miles Turner's been pushed around his whole career.
Well, Miles Turner at this point has no help. He's our only big. So
that's fair.
Listen,
he's a guy that I think
I've said for like 3 or 4 years now, they need a goon. I thought it was going to be Daniel Tice. They need a goon.
Instead,
they need an enforcer.
It's a 14th guy who never plays.
Yeah,
right?
They need an enforcer in terms of a wide space-eating guy that sets tone.
I mean, they need Lance Stevenson. Not even like a goon, like a Davis brother type guy. Like somebody that is going to play with constant energy and bring it every night. They need like 5 more T.J. McConnells. Yeah. Like that's what they need. It's just
you are the T.J. McConnell.
No energy.
T.J. McConnell is the
there we go. Lance
Derek of the Pacers. Who is Lance being guarded by?
Ben Gordon? Is that Ben Gordon? UConn Ben Gordon? I think so.
I think that's right because that's the Bobcats, right?
Yeah, I think that's Ben Gordon.
Who's in the background?
Luis Scola.
Why is he standing with his hands on his hips?
Luis Scola. He's not hustling. God, those jerseys, man. Remember how boring those jerseys were? There's my guy, TJ. He had a great game the other night. They lost to the Hornets for the 700th time in a row, but he lost. He had a great game.
That's more than 30 seconds, Derek.
God. Okay, yeah, moving on from the Pacers. College basketball, Purdue earned a split. They got run off the Florida State College, but they ended up earning a split. Butler didn't have much for Houston, which I'm not surprised by. I'm going to the Butler game actually tonight. We're going to take some of the kiddos and go over there. My buddy Clark's coming. And then Indiana beat the worst team in the Big Ten last night in their Big Ten opener. So congratulations to Indiana for beating a really bad Minnesota team.
How about IU Indy?
Yeah, IU Indy off to – well, I'm saving that for the Jags report.
Okay.
Yeah, but IU Indy off to a good start so far this season. We'll have that plus quick hits and plenty more to get to here in episode 215, Philly area code of Corey and Schultz.
Philly,
ISC Sports
and
Network.
Hops.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
Rolling along here, Corey and Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's get right into the quick hits. Juan Soto is going to go across the street, essentially, to the New York Mets. Signs the biggest deal in professional sports history. 15 years, $765 million. The signing bonus, Jake, is $75 million. The signing bonus. Have the... I'm just going to use a team off the top of my head here. Have the
Marlins.
Have the Tigers signed a guy for $75 million in the last 10 years? I mean,
here's what I don't understand. I will bet you any amount of money you'd like to wager that by year 9 they're trying to get out of that deal.
Well, at least in this case, he's 26 and not 29.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
It's a 15-year deal, Derek.
I know. I understand.
He'll be 41 years old.
Yeah.
There's no way when that guy, his production's going to drop drastically when he's, 35, 36?
Yeah, probably. But still, you get a decade out of it.
15 years? He's a good player, right?
He's a great player. I mean, he's the Probably the third best player in baseball. I think you'd take, if you were doing a draft, I think you'd take Ohtani and Judge ahead of him, but that would be about it.
A healthy Trout?
At this point, probably no. Not over a 26-year-old Juan Soto.
Right.
Yeah. He's already got over 200 career home runs. This will already be his fourth team, which is crazy.
Okay, can I name the teams
Yeah.
here? Nats?
Yeah, that's who we started with.
Boy, where was he between the Nats, Yankees, Mets?
Yeah, he was traded by the Nationals. He turned down a contract extension with the Nationals, and then they traded him to a team that had a little bit of a window and kind of a run. I think they won a playoff series. Actually, I think they won a playoff series against the Mets. And then lost either in the divisional or championship series. I don't remember.
Have they won a World Series recently?
No. I don't know if they've won a World Series ever. I don't think they have. They lost to the Yankees in one way back when I was in high school. It's a cool team. It's one of your favorite players of all time.
Padres.
Is the face. Yeah, is the face of the franchise.
I don't recall him being a Padre.
He was only there, I think, 2 years. I think it was 2 years.
That's crazy that I don't remember him.
Might have been a little bit longer than that, but yeah, I mean, $765 million is just, it's crazy. But Steve Cohen and the Mets, and they're going to spend, and good for them.
It's hard to fathom that. I don't know. I mean, the length of the contract to me is absurd.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is. North Carolina and Bill Belichick are still talking, at least as we're taping this right now.
Trying to get his girlfriend early admission.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a pretty good tweet.
Yeah, thank you.
Belichick is 73 years old. They're expecting, according to ESPN, a resolution sometime this week. Remember, when this story first came out, it was kind of like, oh, haha, they talked or whatever. But then it was like, wait a minute. Like, they're actually, both sides are considering something like this happening. Transfer portal's open. Purdue, UCF have already named head coaches, so time is of the essence here for Carolina.
Do you think Bill Belichick's name carries cachet with college athletes?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not that far removed. If it was, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. John Gruden or something.
Right.
Maybe not as much, but Belichick, I think it does. $32,000 worth of stolen pie was discovered by British police. Apparently, 2,500 pies were stolen from a van.
How many did you say?
In Yorkshire, 2,500.
Wouldn't it be better if it was 3,140?
This chef who owns 2 Michelin star restaurants and a pub in the northern English county of Yorkshire. Is it Yorkshire or Yorkshire? It's Yorkshire, right?
I don't know. Are these
Yorkshire?
Pudding or pies?
The pies were, these all sound disgusting. Steak and ale, turkey and butternut squash. British food. Do they have the worst food, culinary-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? They do. Bangers and mash I can get down for. Food has been valued at $32,000. In an update, bank said police found the van badly damaged with stolen license plates in Middlesbrough, about 30 miles from where it was. This quote from the police: "It's just so much waste. It's just rubbish." Rubbish is such a British term.
Wait a minute. So did somebody?
Rubbish.
Did somebody eat the pies? Steal the pies?
No, they were too far gone. The butternut squash and turkey pie, unfortunately.
So these weren't. So these were like pot pies, not like dessert pies.
Yeah, they were like meal pies. Yeah, not like sweet pies. By the way, shameless plug. They're not advertising on the show. Pots and Pans Pie Company in Midtown.
That's on College,
49th
right?
and College.
Yeah.
Delicious. Really, really good. And they do dessert pies, and they also do like meal pies. I don't think they have like
Dan
kidney bean
Wakefield
pie.
was a huge fan of theirs.
Really, really good. Really good.
He loved going and getting their pot pies.
Really good. IU and Jags report?
I do have the IU Indy Jags report, and we will begin with men's basketball. Paul Corsaro's group starting to play well in conference play for IU Indy in men's basketball. They had their first conference win of the year. They beat Green Bay 84-75 did the Jags. And they also beat Northern Kentucky in the Jungle. So off to a good start in the Jungle themselves. The Jags were 1-0 to start conference play.
Well, they lost to NKU, though.
What's that?
I think they lost to NKU at the buzzer, right?
Oh, they hosted. Sorry.
It was very close. Yeah, close game.
Can we re-rack the tape there?
Can you do the IU Indy Jags report? Or
They hosted Green Bay.
To do
They
it?
won over
Okay.
Green Bay 84-75.
Yes.
They also hosted Northern Kentucky. I misread that
Okay.
as they beat
Yeah.
Northern Kentucky.
No.
But Jarvis Walker had 25. Deshaun Good had 16 in their win. And then, as you mentioned, they fell to Northern Kentucky. Paul Zelenskis did have 24 for the Jags in the loss. loss, 19 of those coming in the first half. Now, they are on the road for the rest of the calendar year. They will be at Purdue in Fort Wayne on Wednesday, Purdue-Fort Wayne, and they will be taking on the Mastodons on Wednesday. That is tomorrow night, as a matter of fact, for IU Indy Jags. For the women's side of things, the IU Indy women's basketball team looks to get back in the win column this week after 2 tough road losses last week. They traveled to perennial Horizon League champion contenders Green Bay and Cleveland State last week, so they got off to
both really good programs.
Tough part of the schedule right off the box, right? However, they host Purdue-Fort Wayne in the Jungle tomorrow night, 6:30 in the Jungle, women's basketball. You can watch Division I athletics, local players right at the Jungle on the IU Indy campus. That's the Holiday Hoops game. The first 150 fans get IU Indy ornaments, which is kind of cool. Have you done the tree yet, Derek?
Yeah, we did the tree.
You could get an IU Indy ornament.
Yeah, the tree's up.
You can add that to the tree. In men's swimming, by the way, swimming and diving, the IU Indy men's and women's diving will be down in Bloomington for the entire week, competing at the USA Winter Nationals. That's Monday through Saturday down in Bloomington. And in women's soccer, IU Indy names Angela Berry White the new women's soccer coach. She comes to the Jags after a historic 11-year run at Brebeuf Jesuit Prep in Indy. I believe that is the wife of Eddie White.
Yeah, a much more prominent figure is Angela, but yes, Eddie White, who
that is a great hire. Lots of success in Brebeuf, knows the local area, is going to be able to carry the flag for that local area into women's soccer for IU Indy. And again, that means that you're going to continue to see local athletes. I mean, obviously, IU Indy has the draw from all over the Midwest, all over the country, but it is great to see a lot of local high school products that are playing in all of the sports for IU Indy. You can also always get ticket information at
iundjags.com/tickets.
Correct.
By the way,
iundjags.com/tickets.
Eddie's a great guy, and his wife has done a wonderful job. She was at Brebeuf for a long time.
Hall of Famer.
Decade plus, yeah. And constantly contending for state titles and all of that. We come back on the show, Chateau Kitchen's Buy It or Bull Bleep, and we will tie a bow on this Happy Holidays edition of Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey and Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz, who is dressed like a mime and an old-school vaudevillian prisoner. And this is episode 215 as we get set just before the holiday season. Derek, you'd mentioned that your shopping is done or not done?
No, not done.
Oh, you haven't started yet, right?
No, we're halfway done. My wife and I don't do gifts. Is that weird? We don't do gifts for each other.
Your kid must just rake it in,
why?
right?
I mean, why would I? Yeah, why would I buy her a gift? Or we have a joint checking account. Like, if I want something, I'm just going to go buy it. I don't need somebody to get it for me. People look at me like that's weird, and I try to rationalize it and say, no, it's not weird to not exchange.
Let me show you the gift that I got Shannon. I'm so proud of this. Keep talking.
Okay. James is all done. One of my sisters is done. My brother-in-law is done.
Your brother-in-law?
My niece
is that the one that
done.
wanted to fight me?
No, one of my brothers-in-laws is done. The one that wanted to fight you is not done yet. But yeah, I'm like halfway through. I'm hustling. I think like a lot of people with Thanksgiving coming so late. I mean, it's crazy to think it's December 10th already, and we're 2 weeks out from Christmas. It's wild.
It is.
When's Hanukkah start? Is Hanukkah late this year? I feel like Hanukkah was super early last year.
Now I can't show this. Shannon hasn't seen this yet, but I'm so proud.
The funny thing is that none of the women in our life watch this show, so we're completely in the trust tree.
She knows that.
Yeah, that we're even doing a show, right? Yeah. Is it a framed picture of Joey? Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, that's cute. Yeah.
That'll go well, right?
Is that like the stocking stuffer?
Yeah. It's just
okay, yeah, I was going to say, because I've
like
seen your W-2, so I know what you pull, so you got to do a little bit better. You know, the Walsh family, Christmas is Christmas. Like, that's like legit stuff, like designer stuff. Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got to do better than that.
I'll probably get a necklace or something.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
See, now we're talking. Yeah, diamond necklace.
Or,
like
she's talking about how she needs a new kitchen.
call up
I get her some
Chateau.
splash guards, right?
Call up Chateau, absolutely. At Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures, chateaukitchens.com.
They don't still have the pictures of your shower, right?
Well, they didn't. They added those before and after pictures. They just didn't do the picture of me. For some reason, they took that out. Yeah, I don't know why. I think it adds to it. Like if I was going to a company's Facebook page and I saw this, I would be like, yes, sign me up, because look at the tiling and the attention to detail. They did all the door hardware as well and the cabinet space. Like they were very thoughtful about framing the TV. And I know this electrical panel, there was not a lot that we could do about that, but still, like that was a good idea. And then boxing in, framing in the windows so you get some of the natural light, and the natural light kind of glistens up here on the pectorals. So yeah, I think they did a wonderful job. And I think this really shows the wonderful job that they did with the craftsmanship of the cabinetry and everything like that. And that's what you're going to get with our friends at Chateau Kitchens. Here was what we do with bite or bull bleep. I give a statement, and Jake and I go back and forth whether we bite or it's bull bleep. You ready, Jake? Statement 1.
Okay.
The Colts will fire Chris Ballard if they don't make the playoffs.
Total bullshit.
Yeah, I don't. Somebody asked me that the other day, and I was like, do you think that's going to happen? What leads you to believe that the Colts would do that?
Yeah, not going anywhere.
I'm not telling you what I would do. I'm just telling you what would lead you to believe that the Colts are going to do that.
Yeah.
I think he's tied to Richardson, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he gets at least another year.
When they are, if and when they are ready to move on from Richardson, I think that's when they will be ready to move on. I don't think he's going to be the guy that picks the next quarterback.
That's probably fair.
I don't think he's going to be the guy that does it. So, no, I'm going to say bull bleep too. We kind of talked about this. Oregon got a tougher draw than Penn State. Bite or bull bleep?
Yeah.
I mean, Penn State's still got to play 2 games, though.
Yeah, but still.
And Oregon's got to play, but Ohio State, Tennessee, I would argue, are better than SMU or Boise, right? Wouldn't you say?
I don't know how good Boise is. I think Boise State might be pretty good.
Boise's the one team I haven't watched at all.
Right.
I mean they've got that that running back that's going to win the Heisman, maybe. But
and Derek,
I don't know anything else
is
about him.
SMU offensively is very slippery. Like they've got a lot of playmakers.
Yeah.
But
I was impressed with SMU.
I'd be cool. I'd be cool with SMU deserved to get in. I thought.
Yeah, me too.
And it would be cool to see Boise State make a run.
It would be cool. Yeah, it would be cool. I'm going to say bull bleep just on the strength that Penn State's got to win twice.
Or do you go Boise or Boise?
Boise.
So
is that wrong?
You do it like a Z, Boise.
Boise. Is it Boise?
I've always said Boise as well, but I think some people say Boise.
Okay. I want to make sure that I get that right. Finally, the Big Ten as a basketball league has a bunch of good teams, but no serious Final Four threats. Ooh. With where we sit today, I would buy that. Now, I have not watched Oregon. I know they lost the other night to UCLA on a buzzer beater or something. I have no idea what Oregon is.
Yeah, I think it's too early to even know any of that, right?
I don't think.
Here's the thing, Derek.
Purdue strikes me as a Sweet 16 team.
It's bullshit, and I'll tell you why. There are going to be 1, if not 2, totally random teams in this year's Final Four.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those Final Fours where you've got like a 6 seed and an 8 seed that find their way in, and who knows?
I'm going to buy it simply because I think Purdue and like Michigan, I think they're like second weekend
5th
level
seeded
teams.
Michigan State makes a run.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a national title contender in there, and if you're making a Final Four, then you're technically a national title contender, and I don't see one unless there's an NC State.
How many unbeatens do we have left?
I don't know, like 4. We only have 30 seconds, so let's get to our sponsors. Thank you to Chateau Kitchens. They're great. Bailey & Wood Financial Group, the presenting sponsors of this show. Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water Tap Room, 42nd and Boulevard. And our pals at IU Indy Athletics. Go Jags. For Vince, for Rake, for Charlie, everybody back there, he's Jake. I'm Derek. Happy holidays. We'll see you next week. We're back next week.
216 next
Schultz,
week.
ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.